Welcome to the Evergreen Creative Company Podcast. We like to call it the Evergreen Creative Podcast. It's a little bit shorter to say, but our main goal for this podcast is to share our experiences as a company through the projects that we work on a weekly basis. Whether you're a client or another creator, you're going to get to hear our experiences from each project that we work on. So if you find value from this podcast, please leave a review and also share this with your friends and colleagues. All right, so welcome to the Evergreen Creative Company Podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Kristen.
Houston.
Hannah.
And we're Team Evergreen, so we collectively have a bunch of different just talents and tasks and all kinds of stuff. So what's pretty neat is last week we started launching a lot of our rebranding kind of stuff, so it's been kind of exciting. Mostly on the weddings end of stuff. We launched the weddings website, so you can go to evergreencreativeweddings.com, and on our social media we started doing the whole meet the team kind of stuff, and those posts actually did pretty well. I thought that was some good engagement with that. And then it's always funny, like we're always like, what do we call ourselves, like so like what's our official titles kind of stuff. And I think what we've landed on, obviously Kristen and I were the owners and stuff. But even then, like, we do different tasks and whatnot. Kristen, she does a lot of the photography side of stuff. I still do photography things too, but she's actually gotten really good at that on the editing side and shooting side. More back end things like accounting and all that fun stuff that I'm not really a fan of. But like the production side of stuff, that's definitely something I'm into. And then, marketing and trying to work with everybody, trying to make sure everybody has something to do for one, and then two, like try to stay on the same page and all that kind of stuff, that just all the things. But
Production assistant has always worked for my resume. If I'm not like specifically DPing anything, it's just a little bit of everything.
I think it works. Yeah. So we've landed production assistant for Houston. That's his official title for Evergreen, at least, unless it changes at some point. But
that's what it's said on my resume for the last 6 years.
Yeah. But I mean, it really does cover all the bases. So it's better than trying to say.
It means different things, different places.
It's like I've heard the term of photographer, because like there's so many hybrid.
That's a new one to me.
And it's people that are photographers and videographers, and that's what we are too. And I get so tired of saying, well, what are you? What do you do? Or what format do you? It's like photography, videography. I'm just like, I get so tired of saying a full sentence just to describe.
It's a broad term, and it works.
Yeah.
It can mean a lot of different things, unless of course you're on a film set, and then it's just like you're picking up people's coffee orders.
Photography and video production, actually, is what you should start saying.
That is definitely what it is at this point. Well, we actually had that discussion earlier last week about, on the corporate side of stuff, we definitely want to start calling it more video production than videography. But on the wedding side of stuff, I think videography,
production.
Yeah, I think videography fits well for the wedding side of stuff. It's also just a familiar terminology for clients too. If you say video production for a wedding, they're like,
whoa,
are we doing a TV show or something? So, and then Hannah, like, we landed on studio assistant because but
I thought that was a cool title.
I do things. I just do.
You just do things.
I just do whatever.
So if you don't know, we can credit her with a lot of the help with what the wedding restructures and some of the branding stuff that we've been doing. Like we just finished up the weddings website. It's good enough, put it that way. Like there's still some work.
There's probably more that we want to add, but just a base of what we wanted to, because we wanted to go ahead and put it out there.
Yeah, it was one of those things where the overall goal is to create a great client experience. And as simple as we make things, or try to at least, there's still confusion at times. So for example, we had a weddings tab or page on our website. And even like I thought, like one place, like just put it all in one spot. And people still, like, that were interested in videography, they would see the photography on the top of the page, but they're like, oh, I'm interested in videography. It's like, just scroll down a little bit more, you'll see it. Little things like that. So now the weddings website has a dedicated photography and a dedicated videography. There shouldn't be any kind of confusion there at all. So it's like things like that is what like our goal is, to just try to create a better experience for everybody. And so
make it as user friendly as possible.
Right. And our corporate website is, it's going to be a work in progress. And so you can still go to the corporate website, evergreencreative.co, and click on weddings, and it'll take you to the new weddings website. But yeah, we're basically going to start from scratch and just kind of work out, try to simplify things more and try to just redefine things, try to make it a little easier. Like the challenge of what we do is we do so much. Like we're not niched down. And it's kind of interesting in a lot of ways, like you see in the industry, that in marketing strategies or anything like that, business structure period, you hear the advice of that you should niche down. And I totally 100% agree with it in most cases. With us though, I've taken pride on, yes, we can do it. And being a one-stop shop for clients, whether it's a wedding client, whether it's a corporate client, like we can take care of the photography and the video production side of stuff and be able to make it to where it's just one company that you're working with. You get the same design language, you get the same team. It's just a little bit less steps and less variables involved, I guess you could say. So that's been a lot of our intent with that kind of stuff. So I was pretty excited to let Hannah do the honors and sit there and publish now kind of stuff. So like that was nice to be able to do that. And like
that was a win of the day.
That was definitely a win of the day.
A hard day. It's a win.
Yeah.
Ended on a good note.
We're actually like part of what I want to talk about is not that whole situation, because I'm definitely kind of tired of talking about it, but on the back end of it. But there is I want to provide more client education as well. So I'm definitely more motivated to start that side of stuff. And again, that's another element that I'm trying to incorporate with what I do, at least on the recording side of stuff. Editing wise, we need someone to be able to step in and do some stuff, so I'm not bogged down with things. Even this podcast, like it's relatively a simple setup. It's pretty templated out, but it's still time consuming and stuff like that. So, but anyways, with, that was definitely a big win. I liked it. I like how it looks. I think the website looks pretty good and it's pretty functional. And if you go to the website, if you're listening, we'll have a link in the description and stuff too. We would love feedback. Like if there's something that you think we should change, or tell us something that you really like about it. We like to hear both sides, things that work, things that could be better. Always looking to improve. And so yeah, that was definitely a big win last week. And we can cover a few of the projects that we go on, but the main talk I want to talk about is why we don't do raw footage most of the time. And kind of like, again, client education. And I know there's like other companies that actually provide raw footage without a problem. Like they don't see a problem with it. They actually look at it as like, if you don't offer it, you're leaving money on the table kind of stuff. But there's a lot of reasons why we don't do it.
Yeah, but if you want that, go hire one of those companies and not us.
Or, yeah. You can hire us, but we have to have a pretty big discussion about what you're going to do with it.
Are you going to know what to do with it if we hand you S-log footage?
Right. So just going back to the last week.
Yeah, I always have to refresh my memory. By the time we get to next Monday, forget about me remembering anything we did.
Yeah, Monday we had Hayden from the Chamber of Commerce come in and do her part for the Wiregrass Wedding Collective workshop that we're going to be doing, the Wedding Pro workshop. She's going to be doing a speaking part or a presentation at that event. Again, I'll leave that link in the description. I won't go into full detail about it, but if you are a wedding pro, I definitely think you should show up to that and invest into that workshop, because it's going to provide a lot of really helpful information, especially if you're just getting going or need to kind of refocus yourself on the business end of stuff. And we've got some really good presenters.
You guys did the Firestone thing on Tuesday, right?
Yes. So that was actually a pretty cool project. So Firestone Tire Shop. What's the full name of that, Kristen? Is it Firestone Auto or something? I can't
Is
remember.
it just tires, or do they do?
Firestone Complete Auto Care.
That's
is
it.
Okay.
the name of the business.
I keep forgetting. I keep thinking you're talking about like Firestone Pizza or whatever. This whole time. And I know
Well, now
last
I'm
week
hungry.
you told me too that it was an auto thing, whatever.
Mhm.
And then in my mind again when we were just talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, the pizza place.
Right. I wouldn't mind working with Firestone Pizza though, because that could be some fun footage and stuff we can get.
So Firestone, if you're looking.
Yeah, we're not against it. But speaking of pizza though, places that we have potential work to coming up with is David's Pizza out of Ashford is moving locations, like a couple shops down in the downtown spot, and he wants some video work and some photo stuff. So
We gotta make like a Daniel Schiffer style,
Exactly.
like throw the pizza in there, speed ramp, flour going everywhere.
Doesn't he also have those like street tacos?
yes, his mom does like legitimate, authentic street
How have I not
tacos.
known about this?
You did know about it because I've told you about it before. Yes.
As
Sounds like exactly what I need in
Harvey
my
in
life.
Suits says, when you talk, I don't listen. So,
Yeah. That's pretty much how it goes.
yeah.
She says it's selective.
Yeah, selective
Selective.
hearing.
But yeah, we should have that coming up pretty soon because he's going to be opening up that new store, I think in the next month or so, or it's going to be ready photogenic wise. So that should be a fun
pretty
project to work
sweet.
on. Take some time with him and just crank out some really cool footage or content. But yeah, Firestone Complete Auto Care, really cool campaign that they're doing that we got to be part of. And Kristen, I'm going to let you kind of take over on that part because you kind of headed up most of the communication, and the two of us tag team the photographing stuff. But as far as, can you explain like what the project purpose was for?
The marketing company reached out and said they were running an internal publication on this particular store because of the females in management. So they wanted some really well done photos of their management team, portraits plus them in action. And so they hired us on, plus we were able to find them hair and makeup artists to go with us. So that way, it made our job easier. But
So shout out to James.
yeah, just shout out to James. But that's basically it. We got out there, spent a couple hours on some pretty well posed shots, and was able to take our time with lighting and whatnot in the pretty harsh light conditions, and got some decent shots. Should be able to turn it in this week.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about seeing some of the final results. Just the different positions and setups and scenes that we set up was pretty nice. But it's pretty cool. Like anytime that you get hair and makeup involved for a project, it feels like
The
that
real
much more
deal.
legitimate, But honestly, it's like those extra little steps that make a big difference because it's like, it's hot outside. We did some stuff inside, some stuff outside. And as anybody would know, it's like when you're outside and this kind of stuff, everybody's going to be sweating it in some degree. So helping eliminating like any kind of glares or gloss or shines and all that kind of stuff that potentially can happen on someone's skin helps us out in the long run.
It's like everything's got to happen before noon down here this time of year.
Well,
Any
but
outdoor
the
shoots.
mornings are just as bad as
it'll be like
anything
9
else.
a.m. and it'll be like
The humidity is just as
95
bad.
with 89% humidity.
Right.
Feels like 103 at 9 a.m.
Like nighttime is the best time to do anything outside.
Yeah,
But-
it's still rough too.
Yeah. It's a hard time of year to do anything around here. So we just have to figure out ways to do that. But again, like extra steps like hair and makeup go a long way. And so it was nice to actually, like, again, shout out to James. He works next door to us. It was nice to get him involved with the project. And so if there's any needs for that in the future, we have a contact directly. But overall, I think the project was pretty good. There was good communication. We were working pretty much directly with Firestone corporate. And so, like, they provided what they were looking for. It wasn't a lot of guesswork. There was, obviously, you still have to figure stuff out once you get there. Kind of roll with the punches with some things. But overall, the people that we were working with were good to work with. They were pretty open to ideas, and just kind of, they're not used to that kind of stuff, and it's not their forte at all. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see the results. Improvement wise, I mean, I think we went into it with a pretty good plan and executed pretty well. So I don't know if you thought about anything, Kristen, as far as what we could have done better.
I mean, we could have brought snacks.
Yeah, that's true.
Always.
Kristen said I was hangry in front of the clients at one point, but I made a sarcastic remark, and I don't know if they took it that well, so Kristen tried to just make it that I was hangry.
It's interesting the amount of times that we'll make jokes and it's right over the head.
Yeah.
That's Houston though, like, and I know it's like a joke among people, like, oh, before your morning coffee, but until he has coffee in the morning, he is so grumpy. Like, he will be so rude, and I'm like, please eat something, drink your coffee, and then get back with me.
Anytime we have problems with the kids, it's like, have they had something to eat?
But honestly, same for me.
It doesn't change.
It doesn't change.
The next day, Wednesday, Houston and I got to work with Vision Center South.
That was a fun one.
And I was thoroughly impressed with that facility. It
That thing was nice.
Very nice.
Because we were just in there a few months ago, and it was nothing but concrete floors and
Exactly.
pillars. Like, they didn't even have, like, walls.
Yeah, so a little bit of backstory. If you're local to Dothan, you know Denny Vision, and they've been a staple in the community for a while. So recently, Eye Center South, I guess, I mean, it's Health Center and Eye Center, that whole facility. They bottom out, I guess is one of the ways to put it. And so they rebranded it to Vision Center South, so that way it could match up what they're doing. And they have a whole, like, suite downstairs in the medical tower side of stuff. And like Houston was saying, we were working with Health Center South to do like a recruitment video for investors and trying to get other companies to come in there, practices
stuff to build out in their facility.
And it's pretty neat now because, yeah, like what you were saying, and they actually have part of the second floor too. That's where the doctors' like offices are.
I remember
like
us being up there too, and
workstations.
there was nothing up there.
And so, like, the very top floor was completely wiped out. It was like gutted. It was just concrete with the framework, or not even that. It was like just poles, like structure, whatever you call it, just the stuff to keep it from falling in.
Foundation.
Foundation. There we go. That's a good one. And then the second floor was the framework kind of stuff, where there were some drywall spots up. There was the metal framing. You could see where the rooms were going to be and stuff, but that's the extent of what it was. So it actually helped with the storytelling side of it, because you could see the vastness of what one individual floor is like and the potential of what could go in there. And then the second floor was like, this is the construction phase.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're
We
halfway
have
there.
tons
kind
of B-roll of them cutting drywall and hanging on like
Right.
electrical cords.
doing power tools, all that fun stuff. And then third floor has more finished products, so that way we could see, okay, so this is the potential what it could look like. So it was pretty neat. Just the health center. It was one of my favorite videos that we've done too. So I'll try to remember to put that in the description of stuff. I love the opening of it. It was a lot of fun with that. Just I would encourage to put headphones on, because it's got like the sound design plus
pretty sweet.
the music and just the way it kind of wrapped up together. So we got to work with the Vision Center. south, and we're going to be back there this week to get some more footage with people in it. So this last time was more of just kind of like real estate style kind of stuff, to where
It was their grand opening.
yeah, grand opening was our first day open kind of stuff. The first half of the day was just us getting all the things without people in the shot, or as much as possible.
I think everybody was getting settled in too. Like
Yeah.
it seemed like that was the first time any of like the doctors were in there, because they were giving them tours and telling them where all
just
this
kinda
stuff was.
introducing everything, and so yeah, it was neat to be part of that. Like I said, I was very impressed with the quality of the spot. Just super high class look. The lighting, I think, is what we loved the most about it. Like, we got in there and it was the daylight lighting.
No yellow bulbs.
Yeah, there's just a couple chandeliers, but she's
Yeah.
even saying to change that out so that way all the lighting matches. So
Good old
like,
white light.
we brought our own external lights with us, but we're not going to need that, because it actually like it was such a sigh of relief, because so many times we have to go into places and provide our own
Fluorescent
lighting,
and
because the
all that
lighting
stuff.
is just trash. And so like it was nice to see that they invested into some really good lighting that works really well. So
You find this amusing.
yeah.
No, I was so zoned out, and I just zoned back in. I have no idea what we're talking about.
Well, you have to listen to the podcast when it comes
So
out.
you have to listen and find out.
But yeah, so Vision Center, got to work with them, and again, we'll be back, I think, Thursday to get some more stuff with people in it, so
Sweet.
that way we can crank out that video that they want to have, and it's going to be put out into some different areas and whatnot. So just for their own marketing purposes.
What else did we do this week?
Well, yesterday was 2 holidays. Happy Father's Day to Josh, and it was Juneteenth,
Yep.
so it was a pretty good combination.
Yeah.
How often does that happen, that they both fall on the same day like
Next
that?
year, my birthday falls on Father's Day, so.
Yeah, because Father's Day is always on a Sunday.
Is it always?
doesn't-
I was
Yeah.
wondering.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not on a particular day. It's just on whatever weekend it falls on. But yeah, Juneteenth. There's a video that I didn't create one yet, but there's a interview that I want to try to see if I could find that we could put out for Juneteenth today, where someone just kind of explains what it is, because there's so many people that don't know what it is.
Because I was showing him a video last night. There's these people who walk around, what's the campus?
BYU.
BYU, and they'll ask like different questions. And so they were going around asking if people knew what Juneteenth is, and they were like, "Oh, gay pride," and it was like,
Nope.
"What?"
Not at all.
Like no one. I think only like one person actually knew what it was.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, how often they fall on the same day, because even on like all my calendars, you know, they were both yesterday, but then on my calendar it says Juneteenth substitute on Monday.
It's like the observed day. So last year, I think President Biden made it an
A
official
national holiday.
holiday.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like when other holidays, when they're on a specific day, and
Yeah.
if it
Then
falls
you
on a
observe
weekend,
them the
so like
next day.
federal workers or statewide
Gotcha.
workers and stuff
Okay.
like that, get
They
the
still
day
get the day
off
off. Okay,
on
cool.
the following day.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I was wondering how that worked.
So, but yeah, like if you don't know what Juneteenth is, I'll try to leave another link in the description that kind of goes over some of the basics. But in a nutshell, it's when the nation as a whole was officially set free.
Because
So
even after,
Yeah, there were a group of slaves in Texas or
Mhm.
whatever, and it was 2 years
2
after
years.
the Emancipation Proclamation,
Right.
and they found out that they were freed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like 3 years later, I think, that like the Third Amendment,
Right.
like all of that happened. But
And there's a lot of confusion at times, and it gets really political, and it's kind of unnecessary for it to become political, because
yeah,
like
what's political?
Independence Day, it's not taking away from it. July 4th, it's July 4th is independence from Britain, like that's what that
Mhm.
is. But as a nation, like we were not all free people
Right.
up until officially that point. So that's the nutshell of it. If you don't know what it is, do some research and talk to some local communities. Like if you want some more involvement on the Dothan level stuff, there's the Carver Museum that has full amount of people that are ready to talk about it with you, and you can gain a lot of education just from them. But yeah, it's a holiday that needs more recognition.
Yeah, and there's no reason to make it political because
Nope.
it's a great day that everyone was
Yeah.
freed.
And it, like, honestly, it's just what's the word, empathy kind of thing. Like, just because it doesn't impact you personally doesn't mean that it doesn't impact someone else. So it means a lot to a whole community of people, and it's worth giving it the recognition it needs. So one other project that is in the works now is working with Dothan Balloon Company. I'm actually really excited about working with them. They're the Cosbys. They've been in the area for a little while. He's done really well for themselves, and just the company's doing fantastic, and they need some content and stuff like that. So we're gonna be working with them. We're in the process of the scripting and dates and shoot times and all that kind of stuff. So we're excited about working with them, and we're trying to we talk with them, and they're creative people. They're out of the box thinkers. They want to do things that are different, and that just lines up with what we want to do too. That's all. We can do a great, not template video or whatever, but our typical style kind of thing of just what works. But we also want to see what can we do outside of the box that's gonna make more of an impact or just bring more attention kind of stuff. So we're trying to think of some ways that we can do some creative stuff with them. It's probably gonna be one of those things where we do what I call the essay format, A-roll style. You got your 3 main points, introduce it, talk about them, and then wrap it up with them again. And we'll do that, but what else could we do as far as a creative idea? We could do green screen the right way. Shade thrown. Have this scene of Up or something like that, do some just fun little scenes like that, but do it the right way.
Nice drone footage.
Run around with a GoPro and a stick instead. Yeah. Anyways,
it's funny how often after we talked about that, I kept seeing it. I saw some guy on TikTok was I wanted a drone shot, but I was indoors, and he put one of those Insta 360s on a really long stick to get this. He was making a basketball video, and this guy was doing a dunk, and he wanted a drone style thing. So he put one of those Insta 360s on a stick and just ran with it.
Right.
But he was indoors. I mean, what else were you gonna do? But it's pretty interesting.
I've seen people the POV drones are. I'm seeing those show up a ton in indoor kind of stuff, but
I want to learn how to do that because DJI makes one now, and somebody over in Enterprise was getting rid of one for real cheap. I don't know, maybe $300 or $400 under retail. They just opened it, used it once, and were nah, not for me. But
yeah,
don't even have my license, so
which we are working on this week. We have to buckle down and get this studying done for that. Which we are licensed as a company with Kristen, if someone is interested.
Thank you, Kristen.
But yeah, we're hopefully we can come up with some creative stuff. So if y'all think it's something we could do with a balloon company, I'm all ears.
Yeah, I feel something like the Up thing would be. I feel that's a fantastic idea. Because everyone's going to know what it is unless you live under a rock. Yeah. There's instant recognition. And that movie brings so much nostalgia and stuff to people. So it's a great idea.
We finished that Dothan City Schools video.
Yeah, we did on the editing side of stuff. I think Megan says she has one note, but she wants to see what her she's marketing.
She
HR.
is marketing.
HR.
Gotcha.
HR guy, see what he has to say. So
it is for HR. I remember her saying that. It's
It's
an
an
HR
video.
recruiting video.
But Kristen, as far as shooting wise, projects wise, she wrapped up the week on Friday with a couple projects working with Rain. downtown, and then there was a band in Headland that was performing. So, Kristen, you want to talk about those?
What?
So the females of the podcast are
What?
tuning out. Like I guess we're that interesting.
Well, it's just when you're talking for a long time and it has nothing to do with you, I'll just look around. And then I was thinking about Juneteenth for like 10 minutes, and I was
It's like, I got to get that
thinking
point
about
across.
it.
I got to get
And
that
I
point
was like,
across.
I've got to make sure.
I'm an ally.
I was like, I've got to make sure to mention that. I've got to make sure we mention that. And then I zoned back in.
I would
Well,
just say,
it sounds like I'm on speakerphone. So when I can hear my name, but I can't hear the enunciation in half of the words. So I'm just kind of like putting things together as we go.
Taking a guess.
so I was just saying that you wrapped up the pot or the work week as far as shooting goes with a couple shoots with, you had Rain, and which is an ongoing project that we work with. And then you had a band that you worked with in Headland.
Oh, yeah. So did you mention at all Thursday morning the traffic?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
about that one.
What?
You can talk
So-
about that too. So, like, just, I guess, talk about those three things, and then we'll wrap up with the raw footage discussion.
Thursday morning, we were hired out by a company out of town that just needed basically traffic patterns for an intersection. So they needed drone
fun?
footage.
For
No,
fun?
it's not for fun. I believe it's probably something along the lines of they needed a count for maybe a business coming into that general area, and they wanted to know like what kind of flow they have, what kind of visibility they'd have, before leasing out a space or bringing in some sort of business. So we were hired to be there for 4 hours total, but they just wanted 20-minute videos within those hours. So I went out there and shot from like 7 to 7:20, 8 to 8:20, 9 to 9:20, and 10 to 10:20.
What did you do in between?
Well, I had Joey with me. And so we went and I bribed him with Dunkin' Donuts. So one of those
Solid bribe.
40-minute periods, we went to Dunkin' Donuts. I had my free birthday coffee in my email. So
We were just talking about
Just it
right
stirs
before
up an
the
anger
call,
in
yeah.
me.
Hannah tried to
None of them
cash
worked
in
for
on
me.
some of her
I think
birthday
I'm
stuff.
like peaking.
She
I
tried to sign up for all those
Yeah,
the day
I
of her
tried to
birthday, so it
do-
didn't work.
I tried to do several things that day, and none of them worked. And then I got really, really sad. And then I went home and napped for like 2 hours.
And my response was like, "Welcome to adulthood."
Yeah, and that was my birthday. Woo!
well, my Chick-fil-A one didn't work. The email said, "Hey, you have a reward. Go get your free birthday reward." And I was like, "Oh, yay." And then when I went and checked, it's not there. So,
Oh,
but Dunkin' Donuts did work. And everybody was happy with that. Joey also had an idea for Josh's Father's Day present that he wanted to build out. So we went to Walmart
was
during
it the candy
another
thing?
break.
Nice.
It was the candy bouquet, yeah.
I thought that was awesome.
So we went to Walmart and got all the supplies for that during one break. And then we went to Publix on another break. So, but I turned over all of the footage like that night, I believe, or maybe the next morning. And the company was like, "Hey, this is great, fast turnaround. Like, how far will you go without having to spend an overnight trip?" Because they do this sort of thing all over the Southeast. So that was decent feedback.
Mhm.
Let's see.
And I liked how you kind of pivoted a little bit with, not pivot, but kept the conversation going with them. Like, instead of just like black and white answers with that whole conversation about like how far you will go without spending the night kind of stuff, but with your experience with some other audit kind of jobs that you did before,
Yeah.
where you would stack a bunch of locations together and yes, spend the night, but you're able to get a lot done versus just go to one location, come back, then go back out, or spend the night somewhere else. So I think, like, I would say that's a great pro tip, like being able to use past experiences to apply to future ones, and like things that work well, or again, out of the box kind of thinking, or not just try to think of ways to keep on working with someone, or figure out ways and that's going to get a job done in an effective or efficient way. And instead of like we could have just said, yeah, like we can go this far without spending the night and end the conversation there. But now like they have it plugged in their minds, like, well, we have this location that's close to this one and close to that one, so maybe we can knock out 3 in one day. Yeah, spend the night, but the next morning come back or hit up a couple other locations on the way back. There's just different ways to get things done. So it's always worth like being flexible or figuring out ways to keep the conversation going.
Yep.
And which actually would be a good segue with Rain, because your goal, instead of like, I think when you first started working with them, you were trying to do stuff once a month, but now you're stacking 2 months together, and that's, it's less shooting, I guess, consecutively month to month, back to back, but it also helps the client, prepare themselves more and, things like that too. So it's been a better experience being able to stack the months together.
Their marketing person isn't in-house. I mean, he's local, but he's not in-house. So if he can schedule out all the posts when I send him all the material, he'll schedule out everything between now and August, and then he's done. Like, he has done his job. He doesn't have to go back in there and plan again if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, which is like, as far as the content strategy goes with what we try to work with clients, is that kind of concept of like, we'll come in, shoot all the things, shoot as much as we can, get everything that we need and hopefully more, create it, and then turn it over to the clients where they can like save a ton of time, not having to worry about what's next and all this kind of stuff. Everything's scheduled out and you can move on to the next thing. Like I used to, when I worked with SpectraCare, every Monday morning was just content creation and then scheduling everything out once the posts were approved. And then I could, like, the rest of the week, I didn't have to worry about, the daily posts that were happening, because I would have 3 posts a day going on. But if I were to have to stop every single day and do that, nothing else could get done.
Well, and I think that's where a lot of people who are maybe a little bit older or not don't utilize like social media and things, because they think it's like, oh, every day I've got to be posting this or whatever, and that's overwhelming to them.
Yeah.
When it's like, in reality, you could spend one day curating all these things, whatever, and then schedule them out, and then you don't have to think about it for the next, 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, if you go on the per post basis, like, that is daunting, and you will burn out fast, or whoever's working on it, you will run out of ideas, and it's just, so much better to be able to stack all the content creation side of stuff and then schedule it out as needed. But and then Kristen, you worked with a band that was pretty, basic coverage, photography coverage.
Yeah.
I would say, like, improvement wise, and I don't know much of what else we could have done except for find out, like, it's just little things that you don't know until you get there, kind of thing. So and it's not any kind of slam on whoever was providing the lighting situation, but they had like purple and green and blue lights just painted on the whole stage setup. So there's no white, there was no anything that is going to help on our end of stuff of capturing.
No skin tones
to be found. So, like,
no balance.
Again, everything always comes down to communication, and I guess in future events, or even if as small of a coverage kind of thing, because this was just for that single band, it wasn't for anything else, it wasn't for the event itself. But if there's ways that we can find out, like, who's providing lighting, who's providing this and that, So that
Well,
way we can
so-
try to like contact them ahead of time and say, hey, we're going to be here during this time and we need this kind of lighting just for this amount of or period of time. Not
And
to
then
try
for
to
all-
like interrupt their workflow and stuff, but try to interrupt Kristen when she's trying to talk instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Or when she's trying to interrupt me, one way or the other.
Just being educated on the different kinds of stage lights, because I specifically asked about lighting. I specifically said, hey, do you have stage lights and lights off the stage? And, I had all of those questions, but I didn't realize that his stage lights were going to be different than like the stage lights that we see at concert venues.
You didn't
Yeah.
realize when he said stage lights that it was going to be purple and green.
Yeah, like usually you can count on 99% of the time. Like when you're like, what is the stage lighting like? Like they're gonna have a wash of some kind
Right.
of white light, and then
Yeah, there was no white light. And when I asked, like, I went and found the person who was switching the lights, and I said, hey, can I have white lights, kind of blended into this? And he was like, oh, yeah, sure. And they were yellow. So there was a few times where I went up. Also, I had to park about a quarter of a mile down the road in 93-degree heat.
God.
So,
At
but
nighttime at that.
I had off-camera flash in the car, but I was not necessarily prepared to bring it back for a remainder of 15 minutes left on the time he paid for. So I went up, with an on-camera flash, and there are, several good photos that on-camera flash did combat the really harsh light painting. But overall, there's several that they're just going to be completely red, or like the entire stage, top to bottom, looks, whatever color was flashed up there at the time.
It was. I was looking at her going through the photos. I'm like, it was just completely painted over with.
But I did
Yeah, I
go
love
back in the photos that they already have, like on their Facebook and stuff, and that's what they've posted in the past. So
at least keeping it consistent.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're a client and stuff too, or if you're a band, like we'll just use a band as an example. It's like if you're going to hire a photography team, it wouldn't hurt for even the client to reach out to the lighting team and stuff and say, hey, we're going to have photography done at this point. We would love to have, some white lights. We're not saying take away color, but
There's something a little
let's
conducive
have
of making
some-
people not look like Martians.
definitely, or burning or something. But yeah, so that's I think that pretty much wrapped up most of our week. But one of the things that there's been a couple recent situations to where raw footage has become part of a conversation, and I did like on our company into stuff. It's such
become part of the
it is like if
conversation.
you go into the forums and stuff, it's always a conversation that you see. Like some people are totally
Gung-ho for it.
100% fine with giving over raw footage. Others not so much, and we're on the not so much end of it. There's some situations to where we will work with clients to provide raw footage, but it's
It's not
very
always
rare.
representative of what the final product is going to be.
Exactly. And
Or
if
what
I
we strive
if I know
for.
that whoever's taking it knows what to do with it, that's where I'm okay. But like 98% of the time, it's not like that. And so
And when you own a business, you should be allowed to make those calls
Right.
of if you want to hand over raw footage or not.
Yep. And so I mean, there's really just a laundry list of reasons why not to. Like one of the first ones that comes up, like what you said, is it doesn't represent our final product or look. We try to get as much as we can done right in camera as possible. Audio, visual, lighting, all the things. We try our best, but at times it's not like that. But even then, like we have this conversation almost every week. We love S-Cinetone. It's a color profile on our cameras, and it looks amazing. I love it. But we still have to make improvements to it every single time. And most people probably would be okay with straight out of camera kind of stuff, but still, it doesn't represent the quality or the potential of what the footage could be. file sizes, and like, does the client even have compatible gear to even watch the
Like,
videos
those
or photos?
422 like 10-bit 4K files are massive.
Mhm.
Like, nobody,
We're
like,
You
constantly
can't
your
just download that on your phone.
like your
Yeah.
normal everyday client is not going to have like a couple terabytes of storage
Mhm.
sitting around that they can keep that on.
And it's, you'll hear the conversation just upload to the drive kind of stuff, but it would take years at times to do something like that. And the times where I
And
have
like, our
tried
internet's
to,
decent.
the times that I have tried to upload raw video files, like, it ends up failing at some point. So it's like, what file failed? You have to try to track that down. It's like there's always hiccups, it seems like, when dealing with raw footage or trying to hand it over to a client. Obviously, you could put it on a hard drive or flash drive or something like that. And that's, if we do that, that's the route that we go, because uploading to drive is just, drive alone is slow and it's not reliable at times. And so it's just the file sizes alone. Like, we had a client that we worked with in the past, and it was a raw footage only kind of thing. Another third party team was going to be editing the stuff. And so they got to the point where they were going to try to watch the videos, and they couldn't even watch it because their media players were not compatible. And so we tried to work with the IT department, and no shame on IT department, but it's like almost every time that we work with an IT department, they're just very hesitant on downloading apps or anything to a company computer, because obviously they're trying to make sure security is up to speed and all that kind of stuff. But it's just a whole different world with IT and media or content.
And you're
kind
going
of
to
stuff.
hit those kind of roadblocks when it's a client who, like, if we could just take all of our crazy codecs and stuff
Mhm.
and put them in a format that's more universally accepted than those,
Right. So in that situation, like, the people that we're working with were already talking about trying to get a new computer, and I was like, if you're going to do that, this is what you're going to need anyways. And the thing is like, with the files that we have to use and things like that, we have to have pretty much the latest and greatest computers. Like,
it's never ending.
like, Kristen's computer it's an i9 processor, 32 gigs of RAM. It's like, at the
on
time,
the surface, great computer.
exactly, fantastic computer. Like, at the time, I think it cost close to $3,500, and that's not a cheap device, but it cannot handle our video projects. At least, definitely with Premiere Pro, like, it just did not work well. Final Cut, I think, has done okay, but it's like, for major stuff, like, the fans would just be making it lift off.
And it's not even like the prices of any of these laptops are like getting more expensive or anything, but the processors are being updated every single year, and then it's like, then that becomes the new
twice a year at times.
sometimes. But now, like, you buy a $3,500 MacBook now, and you've got like an M1 Ultra in it.
Right.
So
So in that, going back to that situation, like, the IT department, in their eyes, they thought we should provide a means for them to be able to watch something. But like, that's where I disagree, because we can't keep up with each individual company's hardware and software. Like, that's not our responsibility, in my opinion. So we ended up, and this is where, like, raw files usually has never just been that, to where we just simply hand it over. What
It's
I ended
never
up
that
having to
easy.
do is bring it over to our, I think it was Premiere at the time, and run proxy files to where it gave it a smaller video file size, to where they could just reference the videos to help the company, the third-party company, work with the stuff to know what to edit. And so it's like, that took a lot of time, and then I had to upload it to Drive again, had to put it on a hard drive. They actually had to come into the studio and help us rename all the files to know, which person this is, names, locations, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it was not just a simple, shoot, put it on a hard drive, hand it over.
Well, and people need to understand, if they're wanting raw footage like that, and they're like, well, you need to provide a means, whatever, they need to understand going into it, like, these are huge files,
Mhm.
and if you don't have, X, Y, and Z, you're not going to be able to play it, and that's your risk in
Mhm.
wanting raw files.
And so let's define raw for one. I think some people don't understand when a content creator or videographer or photographer talks about raw.
It gets confusing too, because there is a such thing as like actual raw video codecs,
Mhm.
but in our instance, we're not exactly talking about
Just
that.
unedited,
Yeah.
untouched footage, whether
Straight
it's
outta
photos
camera.
or videos. Yeah. We don't manipulate it. We don't edit. We don't do anything like that. And so, like let's use weddings for example. Even like you can apply this principle to corporate kind of stuff too, because we do a lot of similar techniques.
But I think it's more interesting on the wedding side too, because that's more run and gun kind of.
Right. And so we'll use a ceremony edit, for example. So we have multiple cameras, multiple audio sources, and things like that. It's not just you can go there and you could watch a video clip, but you might not even hear the audio because we have audio going to an external source, like a recorder or a sound booth or something like that. And so all that stuff has to get synced together in order to even have it to where it's a watchable experience for someone. So it's like there's those kind of instances
Mhm.
too.
We're always cutting
It's-
to have the
it's
best
way
angle
more.
of every
Mhm.
moment.
Yep, exactly. So it's,
There's moments where photographers stand by the person who's
Mhm.
marrying them and the officiant, and
We got to crop in to get them out of the
Yeah.
frame. Like,
Right.
you gotta move.
Or it's like someone might say something inappropriate on the camera. Like we're cutting that kind of stuff out.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's like it's way more than just a video file or a photo file. Photos, it's a little bit different. But even then, it's like we edit those so much. It's like you don't want the raw photos
And-
unless if you are another creator and you're trying to put in your own creative style or something. But it's like the processes that we go through in our cameras too. Like the main photo camera that we use is a 42 megapixel camera, and those
raw
files
files
are
are
huge.
And you're storing them on hard drives that are not cheap at all.
Right.
And, backing them up and all this stuff, like, it's not an easy process of just, like,
On the business side of stuff, a reason why we don't like to provide raw stuff is like we're giving away potential business. So
I didn't even think about it like that.
it's like if we just give that away, like that's potential business that we miss out on. And so like that's why we do keep we hardly ever delete anything at this point unless we just know we're never going to use it again. But we could use even the Premier Entertainment Group's project. It's like I've worked with them for so many years at this point that I had previous footage that we could apply to this
Mhm.
project kind of stuff.
The Dothan City Schools one too. You had
Anything
footage from 2 or
Dothan,
3 years
yeah.
ago that we used.
And so it's like if we were to just hand that over, like, and it's a strategy. I'm not going to shy away from that, and I don't want another company working on our stuff, and that's just my preference too.
because they're, like, we're shooting with, our style in mind of how it's going to be edited and
Mhm.
how it's all going to look.
Exactly.
So it's like too many cooks in the kitchen of, like, we're shooting it this way
Mm-hmm.
to be edited this way, and then
Right.
handing it over to people who, don't have that style and vision in mind.
Exactly. Like when we're going in for a shot, like we're pretty intentional with what we do, and so if like just on the creative side of stuff too, like when I know someone else is going to be taking the footage and I'm not going to do anything with it, it's one kind of nerve wracking because like I don't know how this is going to be used. Obviously we can have that conversation or whatever to help us shoot more, which we try to do that kind of stuff. We try to know what the scope of the project is. But when you're behind the camera, it's a whole different thing though. So it's like we try to get solid shots, period. But it's like if I know that, like we'll use a wedding again. So like a short film. If a client only orders a short film, we're going to shoot it a certain way. Like we'll have multiple cameras going on, but like the first shooter has a little bit more creative freedom even during the ceremony. Like if they're a premium package, we're trying to record all the things, get full
Capture
edited
the whole
copies.
moments, documentary style.
So we don't want to like mess up a shot or something, or mess up an angle or whatever. So we have more, just, I would say, stagnant shots. But like with the short film, like the first shooter, most of the time is not like on a gimbal or something. Like we can get some nice creative.
Yeah, I'll be running
follow
around getting
shots
some
or,
different
you know,
stuff.
shooting between things, and like we know that we can cut, like we can just incorporate certain parts
Yeah, like
of that.
you'll have one person on a tripod and the
Mhm.
other getting creative shots. That way,
Exactly.
it's like when the person getting creative shots is like moving around or
Right.
whatever, they know that the person is on the tripod getting
Yeah.
everything
And like we joke around about
for editing purposes.
Yeah, it's like also like with raw files and stuff, you're gonna get, you know, ground shots. You're gonna get the camera pointed downwards and like all kinds of stuff like that, or even just unflattering
You're
angles
gonna
at
get
times.
a million video clips
Up
of
at the-
Houston.
Yeah, well,
when I'm
when you all record
BTSing.
together.
I love flipping the gimbal around and just looking straight up my nostrils.
But all, like I said, we just keep on going on and on and on. But it's just there's so
We've
many
made our
reasons why
point.
not to do it, and it all depends on who's getting it and things like that. And you know, most of the time, if you approach us and asking if we can do raw footage, it's going to be pretty much a no, we don't do that. But here's reasons why. But like, what are you looking for? We had an inquiry for a music festival that's coming up, and they would ask for raw files, but like I had to explain, like we don't do that. But like if you're looking for content for future use, you know, talk to us. Like we're the ones that shot it. We can edit some stuff together. Like let's work together on the holistic side of it versus
Make it a collaborative
just
process.
to get because like if I was on the other end of stuff, if I had that situation and let's just say she has all the raw files and then she hires someone else to edit the stuff, you just don't know what the things look like.
I wouldn't want my name attached to that.
Well, yeah, but like you don't know what it's going to end up like at all. It could be really good stuff, but also just on the process of getting someone else's footage and then trying to figure out what to do with it. Like it's just use the people that shot it. And I mean, if they don't do a good job, that's one thing, but yeah. But like I said, yeah, raw footage, if
It's a
you
headache.
think like if you're on the other side of the table to where you're saying like you're leaving money on the table or like there's good reasons why to do it, I'd love to hear some reasons. I see it in the comments on forums all the time, but I've just not had very good experiences with giving over raw footage. And
I
not very
sent
good.
Kristen the other day for if we do want to make content to educate a little bit on raw footage and stuff. I sent her a TikTok where people were doing before and after of like raw photos versus the edits that were
yeah.
like crazy like
I like those too.
drastic. So that
Yeah.
would be
That'd be-
something to
90% of, or most of the photos I take, 10% is in camera, 90% is in Lightroom.
Right. So, yeah.
Definitely a videographer first, but
That was fun. Hannah sent me that TikTok, but I also got him from 3 other people as well.
well, every time
I
I,
was like,
see
well, apparently this is a thing. But I did go ahead, like when we did the Vision Center photos, when I edited them to turn over, I went ahead and like exported some of the ones prior to, especially the outside building shots where I took out 7,000 power lines
nice.
and you know,
sweet.
things like that. Did a sky swap. I cleaned up the oil stains from the parking lot, you know, things like that. So we could do a before and after.
That'd be a
like-
sweet example, yeah.
Well, it's like I send Kristen videos that I just think are funny, and then I send her videos that I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. So it's a really good mix. But I do
Right.
have to clarify, like, this
Yeah.
one's serious. This one's a joke.
One more point I want to bring up too is like, so it kind of get like the intent of what we know that we could do as a company if we were to edit this stuff. But then it's like when you hand it over to someone, you don't know if they're going to take those extra steps to make things look better.
Well, and a lot of times they don't, like, if you're imagine handing over like raw photos where it looks like terrible,
Right.
before you put it in Lightroom.
We know how to
And
recover.
and they
Yeah.
don't, and they're just like put an Instagram filter over it.
So we joked last
And
week.
they're like, "Thank you, Evergreen."
Yeah, exactly.
God.
So it's like we've had. It seems like raw inquiries have come in. It seems like they come in waves. Like we could just get a bunch at a time. But I've had this thought before, and you had the same thought last week about shooting in log footage. And log footage is, I guess the best way is it puts it into like a gray profile to where you can color grade the way that you want. There's also different dynamic range purposes and things like that.
We don't even really have to use it now that Cinetone is a thing on most of our cameras, but there are instances where we still shoot S-Log.
So the log footage, like, it feels like it would be just a trap, or it feels dirty if we did it, but it's like we're close to getting to the point where we're just gonna do it, because like if you shoot in log footage and if you don't color grade it, you're gonna get this really grayed, washed out footage. And like my concern with that, with what you're saying, Hannah, is that someone would literally not color grade it and post it.
Or again, put like an Instagram filter over it.
And you can't do that with log.
Like
Yeah.
sepia.
You cannot.
Can't do it.
And that's
Sepia.
so
Just put like a
it would,
yellow.
it would force them to have to use us, and like that's kind of like the purpose of that. But also like bring it back, like the intent of how you shoot is just such a big thing, because when we're shooting B-roll, when we're shooting things that we know that can be slowed down, B-roll most of the time is always shot where we can slow it down. And I've seen other companies that have used our footage that we turned it over, and they're not slowing it down in the appropriate spots. Like you can see where it wasn't smooth, or it's like it kind of just, even if you're on a gimbal, like you're going to have like little movements here and there that just don't look good.
Like
but
my worst nightmare is they drop that footage into like a 60 frame timeline and export it that way.
Yeah, there's that. But it's like knowing that we shoot in slow motion, and knowing, because we shoot for the edit as much as possible, that we know if we're going to use this scene, this clip, we can slow it down and get those usable 3 to 4 or 5 seconds, instead of using the entire clip that wasn't intended to be edited that way. So it's like, again, we just go list after list after list of why.
This could be endless.
Yeah.
The podcast would never end.
I mean, it needs to end because it's definitely over an hour at this point. But,
We
No
had a
wonder.
lot to
I'm
cover,
getting
and we
hungry.
didn't even talk about my birthday.
so it was Hannah's birthday over the weekend. Happy birthday.
It was horrible. Well, I think the worst part was I had a headache and stuff, and so I was like, oh, I'll just take some Dramamine, because we were going to be in the car for like 2 hours. And I'd taken like ibuprofen stuff. It didn't work. So I was like, I'll just take Dramamine, because I'd also eaten cake, and I don't eat sugar a lot. So I was kind of like, and it was, 111 degrees outside. So I was kind of feeling like
No exaggeration.
I'm not kidding. We were in
Yeah.
Florida. And so I took Dramamine, but, gas station Dramamine is not, like, non-drowsy. So then I just had to go
Straight
home
to
and sleep for, like, hours. And that was my birthday. And then spending it with my family, which, I love my
It was
family.
horrible. I had to spend it
No,
with family.
love my family. I love them. But, like, there was no one, like, our age there.
Gonna go to the club or anything?
No one was there because all my family has COVID.
Who goes to the club for their birthday? I guess you didn't hear that part either. I'm just kidding. Hello.
What?
Once again.
Once again. So
That's
yeah, so
funny.
that
Did you
was
guys
that was my and then I ate a bunch of Sonic,
and went to sleep.
and then I went to sleep, and then I woke up briefly, and Houston was like, "We haven't done anything together. You've just been sleeping, and I've been bored." So we watched the show, and then I went back to sleep.
You guys went and saw Top Gun.
Yeah, Father's Day, the boys went out to see Top Gun. And to me, it was one of the best movies I've seen, like, period. It's definitely top 10, at least for me.
I want to go see the new Elvis movie.
That looks good, too.
I really
I've
want to see
seen
it.
We've been
some
seeing
previews.
previews for that for a long time,
Yeah,
I
I've
feel
been wanting
like.
to see it for a long time, but it's been like pushed recently, and I'm like, yeah, I want to go see that.
Yeah. Briefly about Top Gun, some of the things I appreciated about it was like the actors and stuff had to actually go through fighter jet training because they wanted to get as much authentic feelings. And like that's I made a post about it yesterday. It's like you could feel the movement or feel the movie because like they included like the sound design, like the grunting and all that kind of stuff, and all the different things that like when you're feeling the G forces and whatever, and like you're like you could feel it because like that's how they're expressing it, and so it was like authentic, I guess ways to capture the footage. It was great. It was nostalgic. They hit all the stuff for that. They had
from the original,
the 80s style music and everything. They had some of the original songs that they had in the movie. But also like all the different characters and I don't want to spoil the movie too much, but if you've seen previews, like you're gonna know most of that kind of stuff anyways. But storyline was good. There was moments where you're like, no, like that can't happen kind of stuff, but then resolve happens, and it was really good.
I saw this crazy setup on, I think it was Instagram, about how people were like arguing that like Tom Cruise and Miles Teller should get like cinematography credits because they had this crazy camera setup inside the jets where it was like 4 different cameras in like this box at the front of the cockpit that they had to control themselves while they were in the jet to like get all like the like cameras facing them in the jet shots.
Wow.
This is the way Houston is with movies. Is he'll be like,
how do they do
he'll
that?
be like, I want to go see it because some of the way it was shot, like or we'll like leave a movie and I'll be like, oh yeah, that movie was really good, like that was a crazy storyline. And he's like, yeah, that scene where they shot this way, whatever. And I'm like, why does your brain? It's like the same with guitar for him. I'll listen to a song and I'll be like, oh, that's good, and he'll be like, yeah, that guitar in the background, like he just breaks everything down.
It's like in our line of work, it is hard to turn off. Not critiquing in a sense, like critiquing
It's just
happens
appreciation,
for sure, but also it's like a lot of times like how do they do that? Like, oh, can we try this for some situation? But yeah, if you haven't seen Top Gun, it's worth seeing in the theaters because of, you know, one, the large screen, but also just all the sound effects and stuff too. I think
that'd be crazy in IMAX.
Oh yeah, that'd be sick. But yeah, that was fun. And we still, the 3 of us, Hannah, myself, and Kristen, need to do a birthday something outing of some sort. June is a birthday month. But I think we already covered the pro tip. We'll incorporate that.
What was our pro tip? Don't deliver raw footage.
That's pro tip number 2. Ongoing pro tip. And yeah, so all the links that references and things like that will be down in the video description. Check out our new weddings website, evergreencreativeweddings.com. Also, we launched another website, evergreenphotobus.com. And so we launched that stuff too. You can follow that journey. We're going to make it as much of a like follow the journey kind of vibe as much as possible because of the different things that we want to do with them. Also, just our hopes and dreams is to have into the photo bus in some really fun locations. So yeah, follow that. Links below. And catch you next episode.
See ya.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode. We appreciate you watching or listening. If you find value from this podcast, please leave a review. It helps rank us up into the podcast algorithms. Also, if you would like to be a guest on the show and share some of your project experiences, let us know, reach out, and we'll be happy to have you on the show, get you scheduled on. If you're a client and want to work on a project with us, there's contact information down below in the video description. We're looking forward to hearing from you and see what your ideas are and see how we can potentially be a fit to make your project happen. Until then, we'll catch you next episode.